Welcome back to the Property Forum Chat Show with myself, Nicholas Woolwork. I'm joined today by Nissa and Rothio. So let's jump back straight into the questions from the forum. We've got one here from Sebastian from Andover. If you didn't plan on using any sort of property finance, what would you say is the minimum level of cash required to buy outright in the coast of Spain? So a bit more expensive, we talked about before the break on the south coast, but possibly one for you, Rothio. What's the minimum cash, or for both of you actually? It's not necessarily a finance question.
Well, it's not that simple, that question, because obviously depending on the area, depending on the preference of the customer, but if you say, thinking about the question, what would be the cheapest I could buy?
Okay, a range? What's a range? Yeah.
You know, due to the circumstances, what is the cheapest I can find, not too far from the beach, enjoying of the touristic area, quite acceptable. I would say that probably with a purchase price over 55,000, 60,000 euros, you can get a property. Obviously, on top of that, we need to add the fees.
Purchasing costs.
The cost.
Okay. Would that be a studio for that kind of price, or what size apartment would that be?
It can be. You can find an apartment, 2 bedrooms.
2 bedroom for that?
Yeah,
wow, that's very reasonable.
Obviously, it will not be front line. It will be front line with sea views, but it will be quite, probably 5-10 minutes distance, and you can still find this kind of bargains. This is one of the advantages that the recession brought. There are not too many left, but there are.
So I guess you guys would say it's a good time to buy now when prices are still very reasonable.
This is the best time.
This is the best time.
It's so easy to sell. The reason why the investors are putting their hand in their pocket is because these properties which we are selling now and they are direct from the bank. There is no private sector. We're not dealing with the private sector. So these properties for 60,000-70,000 euros, when the sterling is strong, that makes it more, interesting for the investor.
Almost making some money on the interest rate as well, a little bit.
And I would highlight as well that we need to know, in finance terms, that the interest rate has never been this low. Yes, you need to know that the basic now, you probably know, the basic now is negative. We have an Euribor that is negative. Obviously, it will not be this low for a long time, but it will be low anyway. Basically, because one of the pillars to get rid of the recession for the countries of the South Europe is to count on very low interest rates, basically because it's not a secret that our governments have a huge debt and we owe a lot of money to countries like Germany. If the interest rate rise, we will not be able to pay our debts.
So it's likely to stay that way for some time.
So
that's the forecast.
What we have, that is, and we will have interest rate very low, prices like we have never seen before. Well, if I think when prices were like this, probably I need to go backwards to the 1992, when after the previous recession, after the crash.
Okay,
so we are in that moment. We are in that moment.
Amazing. Okay, that's really interesting. Becky from Wales would now like to know, is there a different level of due diligence you need to carry out when buying overseas property as opposed to the UK market? So I guess we touched on earlier, higher due diligence.
I said that a few minutes ago. I explained that what you have to do. This is basically that is the compliance you have to stick to. You need to do research. You need to know the localities. Especially what you need to know is, what do you want? Where do you want?
Yeah.
Which location you want. And once you made that decision, that is the time for you to go in there and research and do your research.
Pick your
because Spain is a huge country. You can't really say, well, I can buy in the south or the north or the, you have to choose the location.
Because the experts are from.
You must have information from the local people.
Local people, absolutely.
And also, if you can get your hands on, or somebody in UK who has already purchased the property in Spain, that is the most first-hand information you will have.
Okay, so personal referral.
That's definitely. It will do you a lot of help. It'll give you, same time you can do the comparison when you go back to Spain and you have a local information, and then somebody who you know is giving you information, you can make a judgment. You can make a decision on those.
So that's a really good tip. So starting out with the location first, and then finding expert partners in that location, that's the start of your due diligence process. That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, thank you. Samantha from Liverpool would like to know, can you buy, refurbish and refinance property, pulling out your initial cash investment in the same way that you can in the UK property market? Now, that's a common methodology in UK property, is adding the value, refinancing and taking that money on. So I guess it's a little bit harder now still, because the market's not quite come back and the banks are really selling their own stock, so they're really defining.
Well, they also finance they have other option of finance. Of course, they've got. Okay, it's not just that it's only working. The bank market is working. The rest of the market, in fact, the estate agent sector has increased at 16% within the last 12 months.
Wow, okay.
So we are talking of serious rates. But the fact of getting an equity, as I would translate in this to the Spanish system, is not that easy. Why is not that easy? Of course, you can get an equity if you have a house. Suppose you don't have any mortgage, you need money for whatever it be. I don't mind if it is to do alterations. If you want that money to buy another property, it doesn't matter the name. At the end of the day, it's an equity. Obviously, if you've got a house that has no mortgage, we say that has no charges. It is like you can get an equity. Probably it will be in between a 60 to a 70% loan to value. Okay. But one of the things is we have very good prices now to buy, because all the prices drop drastically. Sorry, it's not that easy to say that word, drastically. And what happens is, if you suppose you acquire a property, you bought a property 6 years ago with a mortgage, okay? Probably your surprise will be that when you go to get a new valuation of your property, the value probably will be lower. Lower.
So we call that negative equity in the UK.
Yeah, because it is the moment to buy. It's not the moment to sell. Okay?
No, okay.
And this is the moment. This is the moment. This is the moment to buy. It's not the moment to sell. Obviously, it's not the moment to get an equity. But if you have a house free of charges, of course you can always subject it to your status, to your incomes. In all the loans, mortgages, any kind of finance you want to find in Spain will be always subjected to your annual incomes.
Okay, so they're still looking very closely at the buyer's personal circumstances as well, same as the UK.
Can I
so
make a point
very
on
similar.
this? I think that's something you need to bring that to the investors' attention also.
Yeah.
These properties which Rothio's got access to, or most of the bankers have got trying to get rid of these properties, because they're below market nearly 35 to 40% as it is today's time. They are not really shy to lend 100% mortgage.
Oh, really? Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Even we have been doing in the past, for last year or so, we have been putting the cost also on top of that. Because Spain is a very expensive country.
Okay, so
when you purchase, you need at least a 15% extra on top of that to pay the taxes, stamp duties, legal charges, land registry charges. It's very expensive, not like UK.
No.
So,
well, the UK's just been added a 3% stamp duty
now
this
it is, because I think they're
quarter.
catching up with Spain. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing that is because the bank were feeling so comfortable by valuation of the properties which they are trying to sell. They know they are below, so there's already built-in equity. So they were lending like something like 110%.
Wow, okay.
And we completed those.
And that's the case now still?
It's not something, we haven't done that. We have done that. But they are cutting down. They also, because they sold so much stock, they're bringing down to maybe 105%. But 100% is guaranteed. 100% is guaranteed.
That's very, our viewers will be very interested
and
to see that if they're considering Spanish property.
Only thing you got to find investor is some investor doesn't want to put their own money into Spain and they just want to a holiday home, or you want to rent the properties out. All they're doing is borrowing 100% from the Spain, and they have to find the money to pay the stamp duties and cost and everything, plus any other fees or other cost is involved. Other
Very
than that,
interesting. Okay.
it's fantastic.
That's
At
really-
the
really
moment,
interesting.
Very good.
is the right time.
So now it
It's
definitely
very
seems like a
good.
great time to buy.
And this is the first time that happens
Yeah.
in all story, all my history dealing with banks. This is the first time I see banks lend this percentage, but just for their properties.
Okay,
I mean, if for normal other kind of properties, we would go down to 60-70%.
Right, okay, so for the bank-owned properties, 100%. For normal
Yeah, another
sellers,
point,
it's a bit
yeah.
harder. So it's even harder to sell your
Yeah.
own property if it's
Yeah.
not one of the banks, actually.
Yeah.
So it's not a good time to sell if you're an individual
Yeah.
at all. Okay, let's take another question from the forum now. This is from Sabine from France. There are always overseas investments available through development companies, but I'd prefer to purchase my own property to keep as much hands-on control as possible. Where would I start in terms of sourcing the right type of property for a good price? Well, we've obviously covered that getting to the banks direct is pretty much key at the moment.
At the moment it is.
Getting the finance helps there as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah. But in general terms, prices are low. I mean, wherever you go, prices are low.
Yeah.
Even if you are buying from a particular seller, or if you are buying from a
bank
new promoter, or a promoter that is building building properties again, prices in general terms are low. Okay. I use to recommend bank properties because in terms of finance, the bank is more flexible. It's more flexible. You know, well.
It's definitely
They
a
have the
buyer's
money.
market at the moment. So it's sort of, what we're saying is, it doesn't matter what you buy, it's pretty cheap at the moment, and you're in the
is.
driving seat as the buyer
It
to
is.
cherry pick the best deals out there.
It is, absolutely.
Can I make another point?
Of course.
We had in my 19-20 years, we have seen that horror stories about people have bought
That's
properties
what puts
in
a lot of
Spain,
people off investing
and
overseas.
the land didn't belong to them, the property didn't belong to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, basically, I mean, in my experience tells me that most of the time these people who have invested money overseas, and they gone and they paid cash. Now, when you're paying cash, obviously Spain was in that sense at the time, 5-10 years ago, everything went, there was no such thing as a regulated or money laundering and everything, which is now it is very strict. But what they're trying to do now is that the properties you are buying at the moment, they are so below market. They are bringing in. If somebody came with the cash, like we come across before, we would never advise anybody to pay cash. Even if they had £100,000 to invest and buy a property because they want to raise money in UK, we would advise them to take 95 pay cash, pay 5,000 through the bank.
Yeah.
The reason why that 5,000 through the bank, because bank will do all the legals.
Okay.
Bank will do all the
okay.
searches, bank will do all the land registry.
So they're doing your due diligence for you.
So that 5,000 bank will not release, not unless they are
That's a great
very, very safe, because they want that 5,000 back.
Great. So bring in a bank whether you need the finance or not, because the due diligence will be scrutinised.
It will be done
heavily.
by the bank.
That's a fantastic tip to end on. Thank you. And thank you both for joining me today. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Property Forum Chat Show, the place to talk property on TV. And don't forget, we're also available online 24/7 at propertyforum.com. We look forward to chatting to you on the forum.